Welcome to my review of the CASIO G-Shock GD-X6900. This is the FB-8 variant, so it's a GD-X6900 FB-8. I actually purchased this one from Japan. This is one of the initial first 4 or 5 variants that was released when this model was introduced in September of 2013. Most people are familiar with the venerable DW6900, which first appeared in 1995 and quickly became the most heavily customized and modified G-Shock of all time. And we know that in recent years there's been a trend towards bigger wristwatches, and Casio apparently decided to capitalize on the popularity of the larger wristwatches by creating this GD-X6900, which is basically the same in appearance as the DW6900, except it's about 8 to 10% larger, depending on who you ask. Yeah, this was released in September of 2013, and I ordered one from Japan because I wanted to get one of these. I didn't know how limited they would be, so I got this right away when they first came out, and I never did a review on it. In fact, I haven't done any reviews of any GD-X 6900s. Now, there is a, shortly after this was released, there was the plain, what would be considered, I guess, the plain vanilla version of the GD-X6900, which is a little cheaper, and it has remained in production until the current day. You can get them for somewhere between $60 and $70 on Amazon. The DW6900, I thought maybe Casio had ended production of it because it went away for the most part after this came out, and but you can still get DW6900s. In fact, they're more popular because you can pick them up for less than $50 on Amazon. So yeah, the retail price was about $120 in the USA, or 15,000 yen in Japan, and 13,000 yen for the plain vanilla base model. The plain vanilla base model is ranked number 1906 on Amazon.com in men's wristwatches, so it's not real popular. So this has a 10-year battery life. It has a super illuminator bright backlight. On this one, it's a negative, so it's not quite as bright as on some other versions of the GD-X6900. It has flash alert, which means that the illumination flashes with the alarm, and the countdown timer, anytime there's a beeping. In fact, I can probably demonstrate that by going to the alarm mode and pressing and holding. Yeah, so that's flash alert right there. You can turn that on or off. HT for home time. You've got world time, stopwatch. It's a 24-hour stopwatch. It also has auto start. You have a 24-hour countdown timer, which has auto repeat, and a progress beeper option. You've got 3 multifunction alarms. So one of them is a snooze alarm. That's an hourly chime. You can turn that on or off. So there's alarm 1, alarm 2, and alarm 3 is a snooze alarm. And you can also mute the buttons. If you press and hold the mode button down here. You heard a beep. I'm sure there's an indicator somewhere here to let you know that, oh yeah, it's way down here on the bottom. There's a little indicator over the word mute. Indicates that button muting is turned on. So now when you press the buttons, there's no beeping. So one of the unique things about this GD-X6900 is that it has alpha gel. and I'm not sure exactly where it's located. Some of the imagery that I've seen seems to show that it's underneath the bezel or built into the bezel, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I mean, usually the shock absorption material is in between the module. The LCD here, where the digits are displayed, that's part of the module, and typically the reason why it's so recessed is because there's shock cushioning material between the module and the inside of the case, on the front and back and sides and all around. It's called the floating module concept. So I'm not sure where the alpha gel is. Apparently it's on the front, and it protects the front of the watch. So if you drop it face down, you won't suffer any damage. This is, we typically call it jelly resin. CASIO calls it skeleton resin or something like that. What's nice about it is you can actually see the construction. You can see these screw pins coming in from each side here. There's 2 of them, and they don't quite meet in the middle. I don't really like this design. I don't think it's a good, from a physics standpoint. So you've got a mineral glass crystal, and this polyurethane jelly resin, and gold ion plated. This is a stamped stainless buckle, and these are larger, considerably larger than the DW6900. They're smooth, so your fingers do tend to slip off of them fairly easy. So here's a look at the at the DW6900 buttons. And here's the GD-X6900 buttons. I think it's a 170% increase. They're much bigger. So here are the 2 side by side, and you'll notice that the DW6900 buttons were actually beveled a little bit as well, so it made them sort of notoriously frustrating to try to use. It's like after the first 5 of these were released, CASIO switched to plastic buttons. And the plastic buttons have a knurled surface, so your fingers don't slip off them. From a fashion and luxury standpoint, the metal buttons this is one of the best GD-X6900s that CASIO has released so far to date. The resin is very smooth, so I don't know if it was polished. I imagine it must have been polished. So after it's removed from the molds, it's polished to give it a very smooth, glossy look. And of course you can see right through it. So for a size comparison, here it is next to the DW5600E, which is a continuation of the original DW5000 from 1983. So these have been selling for a long time. There they are side by side. So it's a lot thicker, and it's also longer from lug to lug. And here it is next to the Range Man. I would say that it's visually, it's right on par, equal in size to the Range Man. Maybe not quite as thick, and it certainly doesn't feel as heavy on the wrist as the Range Man. So here's how it appears on my wrist. I would say it fits about the same as the DW6900, but you can see there's quite a bit of gap over here. It doesn't wrap around your wrist very well, and because it's so tall, it's not the most comfortable G-Shock. As far as the size of the digits go, it's adequate. There's a lot of area that's wasted on these animated dials. And of course there's a fairly large border going around the outside, so the digits could be bigger, which I would appreciate, but they're okay. If you're less than 40 years of age, you shouldn't have any trouble reading the digits. So one of the things that CASIO was able to do by increasing the size of the case, of course, you get a lot more space inside, and the module is not very complicated. It's not triple sensor. There's not complicated electronics. So what do you do with that extra space? Well, they decided to put a bigger battery in it. So it uses a CR2032. I think that's like the biggest battery in a G-Shock ever. And that gives you a 10-year battery life. As you can see, it has a 4-screw case back. It's a stamped stainless steel design. I don't know if you can see the way that the strap attaches to the case. It's kind of like a T-slot. There are slots on each side. So it fits into those slots, then plus it's secured with these dual screw pins coming in from each side. The illumination in the dark, or almost dark, that's how it appears. It's quite bright. You'll certainly have no problem seeing this. My camera actually is making it look brighter than it really is, but there's nothing I can do about that. If you press and hold the top right button, the auto light feature turns on. You can see the letters LT above the seconds there. So when you tilt it, it automatically lights up. This auto light feature will only stay activated for 6 hours. That's to prevent the backlight from constantly lighting up during the daytime. Because it doesn't have a solar panel, it has no way of knowing whether it's day or night. And of course, you don't need that light coming on, all throughout the day and needlessly draining your battery. So that's why it's on a timer, and it shuts off after 6 hours. So as I mentioned earlier, this is a 5-button G-Shock. So you got 2 buttons on each side. You got a light button right here. So this is a split reset, start, stop. And over here is the adjust button, and down here is the mode button. Fairly standard CASIO design. So these 3 dials here are just eye candy. They're just animations that, they're there to look cool. They don't really provide any function. They don't tell you what mode you're in or whether your alarm's turned on or anything like that. Down on the bottom, you have indicators for snooze alarm, hourly chime, and mute. And those are just little bars that you almost can't see that light up above the words. So when you're on the home screen, if you press the upper right button, nothing happens. If you press the start-stop button, you can switch between military time and 12-hour. You can see there's a little PM indicator here. The adjust button, if you press it momentarily, nothing happens. The mode button over here, of course, takes you through the modes. So first one is world time. Then you got the stopwatch, countdown timer, alarm, and you're back to home time. And you can hear the difference in the pitch of the beeps. When you get back to home time, it's a higher pitched beep. So if you press and hold the adjust button up here at the top left, you go into the settings, and you can zero out your seconds here. You can turn daylight savings time on or off. So now it's turned on. Now it's turned off. UTC, you have to set this properly for your time zone, otherwise your world time won't be correct. So here's where you can manually adjust your hours, minutes. It has a full auto calendar, which goes from 2000 to the year 2099. So it always knows what day of the month it is. Even on leap years, when you have that 29th day in February, this will automatically add that 29th day in February. And you can adjust the month and the day of the month. And this is the flash alert, actually, which this is kind of different from the So now it's turned off, and when it says sync, that means that I don't know why, it should just be on or off. But when it says sync, flash alert is turned on. Yeah, I believe there's okay. Yeah, if you press when you have the seconds flashing, if you press the top right button, you can see this little symbol right here go from small to large. That's your adjustable afterglow. When it's small like this, you have a 1.5 second afterglow. When it's large, you have a 3 second afterglow. And that just means that when you press and release, or press, and when you just press the light button down here, the backlight will stay on for either 1.5 seconds or 3 seconds. As I showed earlier, if you press and hold the mode button, you can turn button muting on or off, and the little indicator is right here. And that just means that your buttons will now be silent. So the first mode that you come to is the world time. And because you have a front-mounted light button, you can use the two right side buttons to go eastward and westward. There's 48 cities and 29 time zones. I'll just go through them here so you can see. There's Tokyo. Now there's no UTC, so you have to use London. Yeah, there's no UTC. If you press and hold the adjust button over here, you can turn daylight savings time on or off independently for each city code. Make sure that you have the correct UTC offset programmed into your main settings, otherwise your world time won't be correct. The second mode is the stopwatch. It's a pretty typical 24-hour 1/100th of a second stopwatch that you find on the vast majority of CASIO watches. As you can see, you've got the hundredths of a second here, seconds here, minutes, hours. If you press the start-stop button, it will freeze it, and you can press start-stop again to continue. So that's elapsed time, and you reset up here. You can also do split times, so if you start the stopwatch and you get to a completion of a lap or a split stage or whatever, you press this, it just freezes the display, so you can record this. You'll have to write it down or something. Freezes the display, and the stopwatch keeps running in the background. Then when you press it again, you see what the current elapsed time is, and you can do this as many times as you want with the splits. You can also do first and second place finish. So for first place, you hit the split reset, and then for second place, you hit the start-stop button. So then when you go to reset, you've got your first place finish time here, 33 seconds, 33.59 seconds. And then you press it, and it shows you the second place finish, which was 36.72 seconds. Then you press reset again, and it zeroes it out. The one additional feature is it does have auto start. So if you press the adjust button, I guess you have to hold it. Oh, maybe it's this button. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's the split reset button. It gives you a 5-second count in. So when you start, it'll count down and flash alerts on. So you sort of a ready, set, go feature. So the third mode is the countdown timer, 24-hour countdown timer. There we go. So it's set for 25 minutes right now. You press the start-stop button. It'll start counting down. Reset up here. Now, if you press and hold the adjust button, you can adjust the hours. If you have it set to all zeros, then it treats it like a 24-hour countdown. You can set the minutes, but you can't set the seconds. This is auto repeat. So currently auto repeat is turned on. So when it counts down and gets to 0, it will just start counting down again from your original set time. Now press the start stop button. This arrow means that it's just a straight countdown. So when it gets to 0, you hear the beeps, the alarm, and that's it. It stops running. It resets to the original, whatever you had it set to originally, and it stops. So those are your choices. You can have a auto repeat or the straight countdown and stop. Now pressing the mode button, the next thing is the progress beeper. You can turn that on or off. When it's on, it will beep at, I think, 5 minute, 4 minute, 3 minute, and then X number of times during the final minute. It just lets you know that you're getting close to the 0. So here's a demonstration of the countdown timer. It's set with auto repeat and progress beeper turned on. I've got my little microphone right here next to the watch case, so the beep may sound louder than it really is in real life, because your ears normally wouldn't be that close. So counting down from 6 minutes, you should see the progress beeper and the flash alert action at the 5 minute mark. So you can see it started up again because the auto repeat is turned on. So I'm just going to stop it and reset it and go back to home time. Right, so the fourth and final mode is the alarm mode. And it's set for, it's on the snooze alarm right now. By pressing this bottom right button, you can switch to, that's the hourly chime. You can turn that on or off. Oh, you can go backwards and forwards. That's weird. That's different. I guess pressing the adjust button momentarily, yeah. So now you can see that little symbol down here above SIG. That means the hourly signal is turned on. So this is alarm 1. These are multifunction alarms, so you can set the date and the day of the month, or I should say the month and the day of the month plus the time. So this will sound at 7 a.m. on October 5th every year, once a year. Here's the alarm 2, another multifunction alarm, and this is a multifunction snooze alarm. So if you press a button to stop it from sounding, it will begin sounding again 5 minutes later. It sounds for 10 seconds and stops. And then 5 minutes later, it sounds for 10 seconds again and stops if you don't press any button. If you want to stop the snooze permanently, then what you can do is when you're on the home screen here, if you press and hold the adjust and go into the settings, that'll cancel the snooze alarm. So if you set the snooze alarm, you can see the symbols for alarm and snooze are lit up down here, these indicators to show that you have an alarm and it's a snooze alarm that is turned on. And you can set the hours and the minutes, using these two right side buttons. Takes you up and down. And you can set the month or not set the month. If you only set the day of the month, so right now this alarm will sound at midnight on the 2nd of every month, 12 months a year. If you don't set either one of those, then it'll be a daily alarm. So this will sound at midnight every day. If you set the month only, then it will sound every day during the month of January, and it won't sound on any of the other months of the year. So those are the options with the CASIO multifunction alarm. And that's one of the things I commonly forget is when you're in alarm mode, you can test the alarm by pressing the bottom right button. And you can also see that flash alert is turned on. In conclusion, is the GD-X6900 the right G-Shock for you? Or should you choose this over the venerable, tried and true DW6900? Well, on the plus side, it does have the bigger buttons, which are definitely easier to get your finger on and to press, and there's a lot less fussing and mussing about. Also on the plus side is the 10-year battery life, which means that you won't be needing to get into the case anytime soon. You'll probably wear the watch out, or you'll get sick of wearing it before 10 years goes by. With the DW6900, battery changes were pretty much part of life because, you get 2 or 3 years. So this gives you 4 to 5 times more battery life than DW6900. On the downside, it is thick and chunky, and there's so much flat area here between about this point and this point over here that it kind of extends beyond the sides of your wrist. So it extends beyond, and it's not very comfortable. It's not much worse than the DW6900, which wasn't ever that good either, but this makes it a little worse. So it's not the most comfortable G-Shock out there. It's more comfortable than the GX56, mainly because the buckle doesn't create as much discomfort on the underside of your wrist. Also, because it's chunky, it will tend to snag on things more. It does have G-Shock toughness, and CASIO kind of touted the military side of things, but it's not really a military watch. And the DW6900 nor this GD-X6900, they were never military really. They're more fashion. These 3 dials, they're just eye candy. So for sound military design, you want a product that is extremely effective at doing its job with the least amount of fuss and hassle as possible. So you don't want thick and chunky getting snagged on stuff. But you do want big buttons that are easy to press, so maybe you can even press them while wearing gloves. That's good military design. Again, it's all about getting the job done as quickly as possible and getting the job done very, very accurately and dependably. So 10-year battery life, yeah, that's sound military philosophy. Plus or minus 15 second per month digital quartz accuracy, yeah. There's better out there. But that's pretty good. It's better than mechanical watches. The G-Shock toughness, that means that it's not going to stop working without a fight. Yeah, that's still military design. So it's kind of good military design, but you know, like I said, that chunkiness and thickness means that you're going to have a bit of a hassle getting it into your coat sleeves. It's going to tend to get caught on stuff, you know, having these 3 dials that are just wasted space. You know, you're wasting space on eye candy when you could have bigger digits so that you just glance at the watch and you instantly see the time, the day of the week, the date. Maybe you could have another time zone up here, you know, so you could have local time and Zulu time. You know, that would be more effective in terms of military design, but it would no longer be a 6900. So it's kind of like Casio's tried to check both boxes. You know, it's like, oh, fashion, check. Military, toughness, and check. But, you know, it's not really, it's more fashion than military. So anyway, yeah, you know, the DW6900 looks pretty much the same, and you'll save $10–15 getting that as opposed to this. But on the other hand, you know, if you get this, you can press the buttons easier, and you won't have to worry about changing the battery maybe ever. Or it'll be a long time coming before you need to change the batteries, let's put it that way. So there's another G-Shock review for you. I guess that's the end. Thanks for watching. Thanks for liking and subscribing if you do, and I'll see you in the next one.